Hello everyone and welcome back to Causes Gaming. Today we are going to take a look at Neurodeck, Psychological Deck Builder. This roguelike deck builder promises to allow you to explore the human psyche and the many anxieties that lie in it while providing good gameplay. Neurodeck Psychological Deck Builder is available on Steam for €11.99, your regional equivalent. The human psyche is one of those topics that are very hard to explore in any circumstance. And while games allow those who are observant to understand something about themselves, we rarely see games attempt to teach us about the human mind. Nonetheless, that's exactly what Neurodeck aims to do. Teach us about our fears and allow us to understand that we have to fight them to defeat them. Fear itself is a tool that was developed by animals over the eons. But it's also a tool that often gets out of hand and controls us instead of just being an advisor in hard situations. Whenever fear surpasses this line of just being a helpful tool, it is known as a phobia. And it's precisely phobias that you will be battling against in this deck builder roguelike game from Tavrox Games. Making a game that would correctly display the battle of humans against phobias is not an easy task to take up, especially for your first game, and this is Tavrox Games' first game ever. Yet, the topic, especially these days, is so important and needs to be tackled by more games. The question is, what exactly makes the topic so hard to approach? Well, it's a combination of many things. First, the fears and phobias themselves aren't the best understood subjects themselves, and social sciences still have a lot to learn, not only about them, but especially what are the best ways to battle them. Secondly, you need to build a fun game around the knowledge we have about fears and phobias. The way Neurodeck approaches this seems to be a pretty good idea. Deck builder roguelites are very popular and can be built with a variety of systems that can support almost any theme. And let's be honest, it's the theme that often drives the sales of deck builder roguelites more than the gameplay itself, at least before word of mouth spreads that they also have good gameplay. And the theme of Neurodeck is amazing, and the game works well to make sure the theme permeates through all of the game. The graphics, the way you progress, the names of the cars, and the enemies all make you feel like you're exploring phobias and learning about them. But sadly, that's all. It's just a feeling of learning. There's little actual learning in the game that it truly makes me sad. This was just a golden opportunity to combine actual information with fun, and somehow it was a miss. While there are stories the game allows you to read to get at least some insight into psychological issues, they're hidden behind a button that needs to be clicked. Why? There's an empty space there either way on which the story could just unfold when you click the button. Why not just have it there from the beginning? This will just make most gamers ignore it completely. And the same goes for the phobias themselves. Their descriptions are about what kind of an enemy to expect gameplay wise, and even the game's collection just forgoes giving even basic descriptions of the phobias. Yes, those who are interested before even playing the game will just open Google and search for them, gaining a lot more info in the process, but well, that forces you out of the game. Giving us at least the very basic descriptions of the phobias could push so many more people into being interested in them and learning more later when they're finished playing the game. So, the theme of Neurodeck has been, sadly, somewhat squandered. But that doesn't mean Neurodeck is a bad game, as gameplay is king, as we all know. The gameplay itself is quite okay. It's not exceptional, but at the same time, it's not exactly bad. It does suffer from an overabundance of mechanics though. The developers obviously had many ideas, but they forget one important principle of game development. Less is more. At first glance, it doesn't seem too bad. You have stamina and health, which is called sanity. Stamina is the resource needed to play cards that regenerate slowly at the end of turns, and when you run out of sanity, you, well, die. Which honestly makes little sense when I go back to the theme for a second. going insane doesn't mean you die when it comes to mental disease, but let's go back to the mechanics. Quickly, you will discover that you need another resource to play cards: actions. Each use of a card requires an action, and you have only 3 actions altogether. And after my dozens of hours I played, I have not encountered a mechanic that would provide you with more actions. Well, to a degree I did. Some of the cards do give an action and some other minor benefit as their text. But since they themselves require an action, they essentially read, gain a minor benefit. Having either of those 2 resource management systems alone, I would be pretty happy. Either you'd need to make sure you have enough stamina to play the cards, or you'd have to balance the cost of cards relative to the number of actions you have. But together, it can just feel slow. Either you have an abundance of stamina but you can't play the cards because you're only allowed to play 3 cards per turn, or you turn to stamina heavy cards, can play them all, but run very quickly out of stamina. On top of that, the cards that are heavy on stamina suffer from another problem. The enemies very often attack your stamina instead of your sanity. This makes playing cards heavy on stamina quite hard, and honestly not worth it most of the time, as they will just get stuck in your hand the majority of the time. So going back to cheap cards and then just feeling sad because you can't play more than 3 of them per turn. Well, now already you might be thinking, that's a lot of things to juggle when it comes to resources. But that's not all. Then you have the items. These are special cards that first need to be equipped, requiring an action, and then can be kept equipped until you want to use them. But even using them requires an action, further limiting the possibilities of having really powerful turns. The use of items should have really been free. And all of those systems are just the tip of the system iceberg. These are just all related to resource management while battling. Then you have the systems related to the roguelite part of Neurodeck, from the stuff that's obvious and needed to be in a deck builder, such as adding or removing cards, to systems that allow you to unlock new cards for future runs, to systems that upgrade your character either by directly increasing your stats or traits providing you with passive benefits. And I really don't want to spend that much time on all these systems, as the review would just keep going on too long, but I do have to mention 2 of them in more detail. Let's start with a good one, the trait system. Here you have to answer a short survey that leads you to getting a trait that is somewhat correlated to your answers. This is an interesting system, instead of the typical relics that just boost your character, and I really liked it. On the other hand, there is the system that unlocks cards for future runs. This system works similarly to this trait system, also requiring you to pick choices that lead to a card being unlocked, but it has 2 huge problems. The first being that very few unlocks are available at the start, and the second and bigger one being the fact that you can either make your character stronger or unlock a card. And that's a choice I don't feel should be made. Just give me the cards for progressing by playing, don't force me to make me weaker in a run to potentially get something in a future run. So, in conclusion, Neurodeck Psychological Deck Builder is a game that sadly just didn't impress me. And I was really hoping it would, because I wanted to be able to recommend it to gamers so they can learn about psychology. But it squandered this opportunity. Not only is it overcomplicated when it comes to its mechanics, making it way too slow, it also failed at the part I felt it could do right, as it just truly doesn't educate on mental problems and just uses them as a theme for a deck builder. It's just such a shame. So, that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked the review, and if you do, please consider giving it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Perhaps even subscribe to the channel, and for the love of Pete, be sure to share it with your friends. And also comment if you have anything you would like to add. See you guys later with more gaming content.